Chapter 1. The Poisoned Banquet. The grand hall of the Xerian royal palace shimmered under the glow of bioluminescent chandeliers, their soft violet light casting an ethereal glow over the gathered dignitaries. Tonight was the Feast of Unity, a rare occasion where the ruling monarchs of the Galactic Concord, a coalition of 7 alien species, gathered to reaffirm their alliance. Among them stood Queen Velara of the Xerians, her iridescent scales reflecting hues of sapphire and emerald as she raised a ceremonial goblet. At her side, Captain Elias Carter, one of the few humans ever permitted to serve in the Xerian Royal Guard, stood rigidly at attention. His presence here was a political statement, a symbol of humanity's tentative acceptance into the wider galaxy. But Elias wasn't thinking about diplomacy tonight. His instincts screamed that something was wrong. The Queen's cupbearer, a slender Xerian named Kesh, hesitated before handing her the drink. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, unnatural for a species that didn't perspire. Elias acted before thought. "Your Majesty," he barked, stepping forward and knocking the goblet from her hand. The dark liquid splashed across the marble floor, hissing as it ate through the stone. Gasps erupted through the hall. Kesh's eyes widened in panic. He lunged, not at the Queen but at Elias, a concealed blade flashing in his grip. The fight was brutal but brief. Elias disarmed him with a well-placed strike to the wrist, then pinned him to the ground. The assassin thrashed, hissing in his native tongue before biting down on something hidden in his mouth. Foam bubbled from his lips as his body convulsed, then stilled. Silence descended. Queen Velara's voice, though regal, carried a tremor. "Captain Carter, you have saved my life." Elias bowed, but his gut twisted. This wasn't over. Chapter 2. A Web of Betrayal. The investigation began immediately. Kesh had been a loyal servant for years. His betrayal made no sense. The poison was identified as Zitharex, a rare neurotoxin that caused paralysis before death. Only the Zorati, a reclusive species known for their biological weapons, had access to it. But the Zorati ambassador, a towering figure draped in shadowy robes, denied any involvement. "We do not deal in assassinations," they hissed. "This is a frame." Elias wasn't convinced. He dug deeper, uncovering encrypted messages between Kesh and an unknown party. Before he could trace them, the palace alarms blared. The Queen's chambers had been breached. Elias sprinted through the corridors, pulse roaring in his ears. He burst inside to find Velara slumped on her bed, her breathing shallow. Another dose of poison, administered through her evening tea. This time there was no cure in the palace medical bay. "The antidote requires Itheri root," the royal physician said, voice tight. "It grows only in the forbidden caverns beneath the palace. A death sentence for any who entered." The caverns were a labyrinth of unstable tunnels, patrolled by Vorath, blind predators that hunted by sound. Elias didn't hesitate. "I'll go." Chapter 3. The Descent into Darkness. Armed with only a vibro-blade and a sound-dampening cloak, Elias descended into the abyss. The air grew thick, the walls pulsing with faint bioluminescence. Every footstep had to be measured. Any vibration would summon the Vorath. He found the Itheri root clinging to a sheer rock face. As he reached for it, a skittering sound echoed behind him. Too late. A Vorath lunged, its 6-hooked limbs slashing. Elias rolled, barely avoiding decapitation. He couldn't fight it head-on. Its exoskeleton was nearly impenetrable. Instead, he used the environment, luring it beneath a fragile stalactite. He fired his sidearm, The ceiling collapsed, crushing the beast. Panting, he grabbed the root and ran. Chapter 4. The stunning revelation. Back in the palace, the antidote was administered just in time. Valara's eyes fluttered open, gratitude shining within them. But before she could speak, the royal guards seized Elias. "You're under arrest," the High Chancellor declared. Elias stared in disbelief. For what? For the assassination attempt. The evidence was damning. Fabricated records showed Elias had met with Kesh days before. His personal terminal contained deleted files linking him to the Zorati. He had been set up. Valara rose, her voice cutting through the chaos. "No. Captain Carter saved me twice." The High Chancellor sneered. "A clever ruse to gain your trust. Humans are known for their deceit." Elias's mind raced. Who stood to benefit from this? Then it clicked. The High Chancellor himself. With the Queen dead and a human framed, the Concord would fracture. And the High Chancellor, as regent, would seize power. Elias had no proof. But he had one last move. He activated his wristcom, broadcasting the encrypted files he'd recovered earlier. Files that detailed the Chancellor's communications with Kesh. The room erupted. Chapter 5. The aftermath. The High Chancellor was arrested. His conspiracy unraveling under scrutiny. The Zorati, vindicated, offered Elias their deepest respect. But the greatest shock came from Queen Valara. "Captain Carter," she said before the assembled Concord, "you have proven humanity's worth beyond doubt. Henceforth, Earth shall be granted full membership in the Galactic Concord." The crowd erupted in cheers. Yet as Elias stood there, the weight of the moment settled upon him. He had saved a queen, exposed a traitor, and changed the fate of his species. But the galaxy was vast, and shadows still lurked in its corners. And Elias would be ready. Extended ending. The weight of the crown. The grand assembly hall of the Galactic Concord hummed with energy, the air thick with tension and awe. Elias Carter stood at the center of it all. His human frame dwarfed by the towering alien dignitaries around him. The High Chancellor, once a figure of unquestioned authority, was dragged away by royal guards, his reptilian eyes burning with fury. The truth had been laid bare. His conspiracy to assassinate Queen Valara and frame humanity had failed. But as the cheers of the gathered delegates rose, Elias felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Queen Valara stepped forward, her iridescent scales shimmering under the hall's light. The crowd fell silent as she raised a slender, clawed hand. "Today we have witnessed not just the bravery of one man, but the potential of an entire species," she declared, her voice resonating with regal authority. Captain Elias Carter risked everything to protect a queen not of his own people. He ventured into darkness, faced death, and uncovered treachery that threatened us all. Her gaze locked onto Elias, and for the first time, he saw something unfamiliar in her eyes. Not just gratitude, but something deeper. Respect. Kinship. "By my decree," she continued, "Earth shall no longer linger at the fringes of our alliance. Humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Concord, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." The chamber erupted. The Zorati ambassador, their shadowy robes rippling, bowed deeply toward Elias. The insectoid delegates of the Hive Cal clicked their mandibles in approval. Even the usually stoic crystalline delegates of the Solari Collective pulsed with light, their version of applause. Elias swallowed hard. He had come to Zyria as a soldier, a token human presence meant to symbolize a fragile peace. Now he had become something else entirely, A hero, a diplomat, a bridge between worlds. But as the celebration unfolded around him, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The aftermath. A new threat emerges. Later, in the quiet of the royal gardens, Elias stood alone beneath the planet's twin moons. The scent of alien blossoms filled the air, their petals glowing faintly in the dark. "You seem troubled, Captain." He turned to see Queen Valara approaching, her movements graceful despite the lingering effects of the poison. She had foregone her usual royal entourage, speaking to him not as a monarch, but as something closer to an equal. Elias exhaled. "I keep thinking about Kesh. He served you for years. What could make someone betray everything like that?" Valara's gaze darkened. The High Chancellor was not acting alone. His resources, his influence, they were not enough to orchestrate this alone. Someone else is pulling the strings. Elias frowned. "You think there's another player?" She nodded. The Zorati were framed too easily. The Vorith in the caverns. Their aggression was unnatural. And the Ithari root. It should not have been so difficult to retrieve. Someone wanted you to fail. A chill ran down Elias's spine. If that's true, then this isn't over. Valara placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "No, it is not. And I fear the next move will be far more dangerous." Elias met her eyes. "Then what do we do?" For the first time since he'd known her, the Queen smiled. Not the practiced smile of diplomacy, but something fiercer. Something determined. "We prepare." Epilogue: The shadows stir. 3 cycles later, a transmission arrived from the edge of Concord space. It was fragmented, distorted, but the message was clear. A fleet of unknown origin had been spotted near the ruins of the lost Velnath homeworld, a species wiped out centuries ago in a war so brutal their name had been erased from history. And they were heading toward Zyria. Elias tightened the straps of his armor, his mind racing. The High Chancellor had been a pawn. The real enemy was still out there. And they were coming. Queen Valara stood beside him on the palace balcony, watching the skies. "Whatever comes next," she said softly, "we face it together." Elias nodded, gripping his weapon. The galaxy had changed forever. And so had he.